McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Owen with a kick to full forward, Cloak, not quite, Blair, Collingwood back in front.
The scene, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm has erupted. Oh, who else? McDonald!
You know, both I and Donnie tried to tell you guys last round that there is no such thing as an easy game the rest of the season. And look what we got in round 18. We have upsets with Richmond and Brisbane. We have teams like the Suns and the Hawks playing teams harder than they should be or making that draw happen. And then we got teams like North Melbourne Roos, the wooden spoon right now. And they pushed Essendon to their limits until late in that game. So you cannot overlook anyone, and that's why the end of the season, especially like this last round and then the next 5 rounds, are going to be so exciting to watch because the top 4, 5, maybe 6 of that top 8 is set. But those bottom 2 positions, 7, 8, they are fully up for grabs, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But first things first, we got to get into round 18. Of course, I'm your host, Ross Sellon, joined alongside by the fourth long AFL correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess. Coach, how are we feeling after round 18? And let's not mention the Sydney Swans and GWS Giants game yet.
Oh man, round 18 gave us a little bit of everything. Some absolutely dominating performances, like early in a couple of upsets that randomly happened. We saw the mysterious and enigmatic draw during this round, and we see some very, very interesting top 8 right now with Essendon finding their way into the 8. The question is, can they stay there?
That's the big question that everyone's going to be asking, and we're going to help answer that for you guys in this one. And we're going to get into round 18. Then we're going to give you our, of course, Donnie's team of the round. Some power rankings for round 19 tipping. Then a little special thing that we teased last episode is that we have gone through the last 5 rounds, courtesy of the AFL.com, the AFL website, and then look at the ladder predictors. So we're going to give you what our final 8 looks like with the last 5 rounds to go. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Got some surprises there for you guys too. And thank you so much for listening. This is the home of the AFL in America. This is the American voice of Australian football. And we thank you so much for joining us today. But the first game of round 18 was a huge game potentially for the Fremantle Dockers. And I mean, if you just look at what the Freo fans were saying on Twitter the whole game, it was tough to watch because they absolutely blew this. I mean, it's almost like the Giants, man. The Giants and Fremantle Dockers have a lot in common. They're really good at blowing opportunities, and if they do get leads, they're good at blowing those as well because Fremantle gets destroyed in a pivotal game. And Geelong handles business on the road, and this was some of the Fremantle's worst goal kicking all season, and that really is saying something because this team's been horrible at goal kicking all season long, and it wasn't just one player that had a bad game. It was tons of people that had one behind. You know, maybe there were a few goals here and there, no multi-goal score. It was just empty off the board. Whereas on the other side of the footy, Geelong's big 2 now. I mean, the third one's MIA at this point. So the big 2, Dangerfield and Hawkins, they combined for 7. They're able to bounce back after their quiet game last round. And they were able to adjust now, playing without that big guy there in Jeremy Cameron. And so Geelong has solidified their stake at the top of the league like we've been seeing the last number of rounds. But although they're not number 1 on the ladder, they are the current betting favorite to win the flag. So is that the right place to be? Are they your favorite? And then give me your thoughts about this game as well.
Oh man, this is a game that, I mean, I know you and I have several Freo fans.
I feel so bad for. I don't want to talk smack about Freo because those fans don't deserve it, man. I feel so bad for you guys.
Oh, so many of them are so nice, and they're so
Right.
awesome to talk to, and they've been so supportive. And I'm not smack talking them. They've been so snake bitten
Hmm.
this year, and I think all of them will admit that their goal kicking has been horrendous, unfortunately. And that's I can't you can't really sugarcoat the fact that they kick 313 in this game. I mean,
Hmm.
there's it is all damn near impossible to win a game of football if you kick almost four times as many behinds as you do goals. That's really, really difficult, especially when you're facing one of the top five defensive teams in the entire AFL in Geelong. They read the ball really well, they intercept mark, and then they use that and kick it right back down the field. And when you've got Tommy Hawkins up there kicking goals, when you've got some of the absolute elite players, aka Dangerfield and Selwood in the middle,
Hmm.
you cannot miss opportunities in front of goal. And unfortunately, this was not Frio's day. This was just not a game that you want to hang your hat on. If you're the Cats, you're humming at the right time. You go over, you win a tough game in wet weather footy, and you win it in Optus Stadium. Never an easy place to win. And you get a big win, and it solidifies you right there as most likely going to be a top four team this season now with a full game advantage over Port Adelaide on the ladder. So right now I think the Cats, I mean, pardon the pun here, they're sitting in the catbird seat because they know Melbourne and the Western Bulldogs are playing each other this week, meaning one of them is probably, unless they do a draw, one of them is not going to win. And with a win this week, they're going to jump whoever that is. Even if Melbourne loses, they've only got two with their result from this round. So Geelong is sitting very pretty to be in the top two by the end of this round, as long as they can take home the chocolates this upcoming round as well.
So great news if you're Geelong, and the unfortunate part is that if you're Freo, mathematically you still have a chance to make the finals, but realistically, we already talked about how tough this last stretch of games are for them, and with play like this, it's unfortunate to say, but it's just about season over potentially for them. But one team that might not be in the top eight, and even though they suffered a loss this round, they still have a lot of potential to make it into those last spots, is St. Kilda. They took on Port Adelaide in round 18, and their hot streak finally came to an end as they dropped a really close one to Port. And this was a really well played game by either side. St. Kilda was in this the whole time, and it was a solid first half for them. And they almost made the comeback happen in the fourth quarter. They actually get to lead in some of the last minutes. But Port Adelaide was able to get the lead back. They end up winning this one, and it helps when you guys got guys like Ollie Wines keeping his name in Brownlow contention. He puts up another huge disposal game with 36. Also kicked a goal to boot in this one as well. And in St. Kilda, they're such an exciting team. They're such a team where it's almost like you don't know what to get from them, but not like they're going to crap the bed or do really well. It's just they're going to be solid. It just depends. Sometimes they have those games where they're way better than usual. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I think this team still has a really solid chance at making the finals. And Port Adelaide, yeah, this is not a bad win for them, but if you want to be that top four team like you're trying to be, I would hope for something a little bit more impressive, I guess. Even though it's a great St. Kilda team, but for Port Adelaide, you need a bigger statement, and they've been lacking that statement all season long.
Well, this is one of those. This is one of those wins that I'm not sure whether I should praise Port Adelaide or want to kick St. Kilda right in the rear end, because this was there for the taking. Like you said it, this was there for the taking for St. Kilda to stamp themselves into a serious contention to make the finals. And again, they proverbially take a falcon right off the forehead when they in the worst possible time. Port Adelaide was not super impressive. Again, 10-14. It's a win, but it's not super impressive. Unfortunately, St. Kilda is not the team of last year. They're not a finals bound team that everybody's got a lot of things into it. Yes, St. Kilda has played really, really well the previous 2 weeks, but this was a little bit of old St. Kilda that there were moments of lull where they were not that impressive. Their field kicking was disastrous there for about a 4-minute stretch, which I really think cost them this game. Because even Brad Hill had a couple of absolute clangers. One where he kicked it into the guy on the mark 4 meters in front of him, who then buries it, who then sends it down into the goal square, and that gets kicked for a goal. And that really flipped the game from being a 1 or 2 point game to Port Adelaide's up 7.
I felt
So,
bad for laughing at that.
but unfortunately, it happens. Even some of the greats occasionally have a clanger or two. So it happens. But if I'm Port, I'm happy I got the win, an unimpressive win, unfortunately, because again, not a lot of people are saying, "Well, this was a tough matchup. This was a tough." No, this is a St. Kilda team that for the longest time were severely being defecated on, if I'm being completely honest with you.
You're right.
They were not playing well. So if I'm Port, I'm happy you get the 4 points, you stay in that 4th spot, you stay in that chance for the double chance. But this is another chance to kind of shake away off some of the doubters of this team, and they really didn't do that.
Yeah, they're still going to have some potential for a prove-it game. To be honest, their last 5 rounds really isn't that high in competition compared to what some of these other finals teams are facing. So their chance might be gone, and their next prove-it game might actually just end up coming in the finals. So it's going to be interesting to see where we can go with this power team. The next one is kind of what I talked about in the intro, is that Gold Coast played a really good game against the Doggies, and even though they haven't been winning, it's not going to show up on the record. But Donnie, we talked about this a number of weeks ago, like how bad historically Gold Coast has been in the last 8 rounds of the season, and they're helping push that narrative and helping to put it to bed, because although, like I said, they don't win, they played a really solid game against one of the top teams in the league. They punched the Doggies in the mouth in the first quarter, and the Suns almost come back late, kind of like St. Kilda. But ultimately, the Western Bulldogs come away with the 4 points that they should have. But this was a little bit of a scary game if you're one of their supporters. And it was interesting because the Suns led in most player stat categories. They spent more time in the 50. But ultimately, the way you look at it is kind of like the last couple of games where there's a bit of inaccuracy in front of the goalpost. There was accuracy here in front of the goalpost, because the Doggies, they get 14-6 to the Suns 11-13, and that ends up being the deciding factor in there. And it does help when you guys, even on days where your MVP and Bontempelli, they're kept off the scoreboard. You got guys like Ugle-Hagan stepping up. They put up 3, and he also Bontempelli's got 36 disposals, so he wasn't quiet, just quiet in terms of scoring. So while the Doggies might look a little shaky recently, though, I mean, they had that loss to Sydney, which was a fantastic game by Sydney. But now they play a little bit of a wobbly game against one of the bottom teams in the league, in the Gold Coast Suns. So, do you still have a lot of faith in this team, or is it almost like a Port Adelaide situation for them?
How to say this? I honestly I think this is more kudos on Gold Coast playing a much better game against a really good team. I really wouldn't say this was a game where the Western Bulldogs played really bad. I mean, when your number 1 overall pick kicks 3 goals and he kind of shows you those major abilities that he has to be a deadly forward up front with his height and skill and ability, this was quite an impressive game. And I mean, with all the Suns' great, performances, considering you get the Rising Star and Jeremy Sharp with 30 disposals in this game, gets him a Rising Star nomination. Tuke Miller, as per usual, 38 disposals, a disposal machine, a little bit of everything, and just it's kind of workmanlike by this Gold Coast Suns team. That's what they've kind of embraced. I got to give Stewie Dew a lot of credit. He's got these young boys up and about. This isn't the Suns team that falls apart in the second half of the season, gets blown out by 70 in round 19 or 20 in the season, where it literally looks like Gold Coast gives up. So I'm not going to say this was a bad performance. I just think this was a really good performance by Gold Coast, and they pushed the Doggies a little bit more than I think a lot of people were expecting. The Doggies are still really, really good. Now the scary part for them is the fact that they lose Josh Dunkley because he was in a tier 1 exposure site because he went and got a coffee. So
How crazy is that?
well, it's kind of the way this whole thing is going, unfortunately, and we can talk about it later with the insanity that was the game that you don't want to talk about, because that game just because of all the changes that happened 45 minutes before
Minutes
first
before game.
yeah, 45 minutes before first bounce. Yes, and that's that. And I hate to say it, sir, but I think you skipped a game.
There's a good chance that I did,
I
and that is why we're going to go and circle back to that one next.
Yeah, because that one's got a massive storyline that we have to talk about.
You're right. That's just what happens. Sometimes I don't organize my agenda correctly, and words get skipped over. But you cannot skip over this team, especially with the fan base that they have, because they will come after you. They come after you with anything you have to say about them. So let's talk Richmond and Brisbane, because do we see a little bit of resuscitation by this Richmond Tigers team, because they come back to life. They take out one of the top teams in a historical game from Jack Riewoldt, because in his 300th, I believe the record is what they were saying on air, is that the most goals kicked in the 300th game is 6. And Jack tied that record with 6 in this one, which was just a unreal performance by this guy. My jaw was on the floor, just trying to keep up with what was going on. Also, solid performance by Chol with 4 goals. But Brisbane, they took control of the third term, and the Tigers then went on to kick 5 straight goals. They got on top. They stayed on top. And now the real question is this a flash in the pan? Is this just the Tigers being super motivated for Jack's 300th game? Or is this actually them maybe kicking things into gear and getting a little bit of a jump start to make that last second ditch, last second effort to get to the finals? It's going to be tough because they still have to win probably at least 4 of their last 5 games. So they have a tough road ahead of them. They have life. So what do you think about this? Also, are you losing confidence in the Brisbane Lions now?
Oh, this is one of those where we also got to throw in the fact, okay, the Tigers played Tigers footy. Legit. They played a Tigers type of footy game.
This is the Tigers we saw last season. Hands down.
Exactly.
Hands down.
There's one giant issue, though, is that the major loss of Dusty Martin halfway through the third quarter. He has a absolutely wicked bump in the center of the field.
What, his elbow almost got hit into his own self. He got crushed.
It was a hip and shoulder, and he actually bruised his kidney.
That's what ended up being a bruised kidney.
It ended up being a bruised kidney.
Oh,
he is done for the year.
Even if they make finals,
he is done for the year. They said that it is. They believe it is severe enough that there's no way he's going to get back healthy enough to be able to play. So that's why your question is kind of, it's hard to answer, because if Dusty is still there, if Dusty is still healthy, yes, I think Richmond makes the finals, because their run after Geelong this round is relatively, I think, winnable 4 games to end the season, to where they're going to get in. They should get in. They have the points the way they are. Not having Dusty, I think, complicates things. I think even with Dusty, I think the Cats would probably beat him this week. I know I'm giving away my tip already this week, but stay with me here. My issue I see is that their run home is not much simpler after that. Yes, it's a bunch. Yes, it's some teams that you would think that Richmond should beat, but when you eliminate Dusty for them, and that you add the fact that you've got 2 teams fighting for the finals in Freo and GWS. Yes, GWS is still in the hunt. I know I know your opinion. We've discussed that, but
they're in the hunt. They're mathematically in the hunt. I'm
gonna give them the proverbial bone here. Okay,
I'm the most pessimistic GWS fan in the world, aren't I?
But here's the thing: This Cats game is the one game I think they can afford to lose. The issue I see is I agree with you. I think the next 4 they have to win. And it's still not even easy. You got to go out to Optus Stadium with Frio, but you're hoping maybe that Sean Darcy is not going to be able to play. That's still up in the air. I'm keeping an eye on that. Unfortunately, the injury update does not update till tomorrow. Unfortunately, that's the only bad part about this podcast. I can't tell you who's out for this week, most likely, and who's in.
Which is another reason why you should help us get a little bigger. Maybe we could do a live show. It'd be a little easier.
That would be absolutely
so
awesome.
we could quit our jobs and just do this full time for you guys.
I would not. I would absolutely love that. That'd be absolutely amazing. But if Darcy's back, I think the Dockers have a legit shot to win this game with Dusty being out. Yes, the Tigers are really, really good, but the ruck battle, I think, evens out if Darcy is facing Nankervis instead of a younger player. And they play North, and North is kind of that bogey team right now that nobody wants to play. They're tough, they're physical, they don't give up, they give everybody their best shot, and they've nipped a few teams, so that's not an easy win there. GWS, by then they should get Toby Green back, so I think, and potentially you still have some a really, really tough game. That game is going to be a road game. Hopefully it's not at the MCG, which would be nice. Maybe it'll be at Marvel. Sorry, dirty shot. I know Richmond fans. I'm sorry. And then end with Hawthorn, and Hawthorn has just drew with the team that they played this week. We'll discuss that a little bit later in the episode. So this is not a simple yes or no for Richmond. I go Dusty out. They may make the finals. I just see this. I think Dusty's loss nixes, even if they make the finals, a chance to win the flag, because he is that guy that steps up in the big time when it comes to the flag. So unfortunately, that may be a death blow to their final for their flag competitions. Finals is still there, but we'll have to see who that 7 through 12 is still up for grabs. And other teams coming on to the point where there's even a shot that a very old team that got a nice win over a rival this weekend might be peeking their heads in with a chance for a finals bid.
You might be able to see here. But the next game, the one that Don talked about with the draw, was of course the Dees and the Hawks. The Hawks are able to pull this one off as they score to tie within the last minutes of the game. And Melbourne, I would say technically, they almost blew a lead. It would have been worse if they lost, but they still a draw. They blew almost a 30-point lead in the second term of this one. You had Bailey Fritsch leading the D's in this one with 3 goals kicked. Petrarca finishes with just 1 behind in this one. So when you got a team that's been struggling as of late, they had a little bit of a bounce back game last round, but overall, recently, they've been struggling offensively. When you got your stars like Christian Petrarca, you're going to you need those guys to reliably put up 2 goals a game if you want to win, and if you want to have real competition here at the flag. And this, maybe I don't want to get too far ahead of myself by saying this, but Melbourne, especially as the top team on the ladder, they're getting dangerously close to pretender level vibes where they're here. They're at the top. They almost remind me of Port Adelaide of last season. Well, because they were at the top of the ladder the entire year. Melbourne's been at the top of the ladder damn near the entire year. But are they the team that instills the most amount of confidence in them? No, they are not. It's been mostly due to these recent offensive problems, and now give you about 80 to the Hawks. Maybe your defense, which is what you pride yourself on, is seeing some minor flaws that might be able to be, I guess, pinpointed a little bit better by these upper echelon teams, the teams near or who you're going to be playing in the finals. So if I'm Melbourne right now, I'm actually a little bit worried at this point.
Here's where perception and reality kind of blend a little bit. Okay, the perception, everybody's like, well, Melbourne's struggling. Okay, well, if we look at it, okay, the teams that they've lost to, let's go through it: Adelaide, GWS, and then this draw with Hawthorn. Am I correct on that?
And also Collingwood.
And Collingwood.
They got that Collingwood in the last game for
Yep. Okay. There are 3 losses. So Adelaide, Collingwood, GWS.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at it right now,
and that GWS was their draw 1-1 on the season in games, so they split the series.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But here's the thing, though. Look at it. 16th, 12th, and 15th are their losses. But if you notice, look in the top 8, beat Essendon, beat Sydney, beat Brisbane, they beat Port, they beat Geelong, they beat the Western Bulldogs. So is this that they're fading, or is it that maybe they're taking the lower teams lightly, but they're stepping up in the games that are big time, like the Western Bulldogs, like the Geelong Cats, like Port, like Brisbane? So I'm not jumping on this Melbourne shaky. They may not. No, because if you look at it, they've won the games they need to win against the teams around them. The only issue I see, and I've seen this discussion talked about, and I agree with it, maybe Melbourne's getting a little ahead of themselves. Again, I don't know this. I'm just it's what it looks like is that I think they're getting ahead of themselves. They are going into some of these games like Adelaide, like GWS, like Collingwood, thinking, well, we're going to win this, so we aren't going to have to try to play our best. And they've paid for it. So, I mean, it's not like Hawthorn had a spectacular game. I mean, this was not even a full-strength Hawthorn team. This is a Hawthorn team that has a ton of it, that has injuries in some very key areas. So, I don't know really how to answer this one, because if I look at the fact that I care about more is how have they performed against the teams right now. If the finals were to start today, how have they done against all the finals teams? Well, they're undefeated against all the finals teams right now.
Isn't that the interesting thing about this team? Do you put more weight into their wins or more weight into their losses? And although you probably want to side with the wins, there's a lot of people, I mean, it might be damn near 50-50 on your mindset on this one, because you have really good wins, but you also have some poor losses. And
I know, and that's, like I said, that's it.
This seems weird, man. I think, can we at least agree on that? This Demons team is weird.
Exactly, and that's why they say is it an attitude thing? Are these players coming in with an attitude that they don't think they should try really hard against the bad teams, and they get up and get after the teams that are in and around the finals teams? So we'll have to see. I also think teams are starting to figure. I think some of the teams in the 8 need to look at what Alistair Clarkson did for Hawthorn, because he really exposed Lever and May in this game. And if any of the 8s, that's why I'm very intrigued by the Western Bulldogs playing him this week. Very, very intrigued, because I think Alistair Clarkson and a few of these coaches have given you a tiny bit of the playbook on how to attack Lever and May that may change Melbourne's fortunes in the finals if some of these teams start doing that. And that is to not let them be free, and that's to body one-on-one them in the offensive 50, so then they cannot get run and jump free to intercept mark the footy. So the easiest way to describe this is that they're always shoulder to shoulder with the defender that's defending them. So if you've got Lever or May, you do not leave them. You do not let them get away from you. You stay with them at all times. You force them to stay with you. And you don't go out the back. You don't lead forward. You stay shoulder to shoulder, and you force them to play one-on-one defense, which they are both not the greatest one-on-one defenders. May's a little bit better at one-on-one defending than Lever is. Lever is more of the intercept player. So if you can force Lever to stay shoulder to shoulder with you and make it a contest, I think it gives you an advantage, especially if you can tap the ball down from that to oncoming forward players or oncoming midfielders to then attack the empty spaces in the 50. So I think Alistair may have given the Western Bulldogs and some of the teams in the finals a little bit of a cheat sheet on maybe how to take down this interesting, this dynamic combination in the back for the Melbourne Demons.
got a huge game next round. We'll see if they can prove themselves and kind of right the ship, at least maybe not to them, but to a lot of the people looking at them. Mm-hmm. Now the next one, we got a very good game, kind of like with Donnie. This was one of your games where I'm tipping this team, but don't be surprised. We've gotten that a little bit of patent in the last number of rounds. So we had North Melbourne and Essendon, and the Dons survived a bit of a scare in this one as they really turn it on in the second half, and they finally break into that top 8. They finally get there, and so now the real question is, can they hold on to it? But they turn up the defense, as in the first half, they looked like they were playing a little bit off the ball, kind of giving up uncontested marks, and just being a little bit, I guess, maybe a little bit too relaxed, I guess, if that's how you want to say it. But then you transition, you start playing a lot tougher defense. You got Jake Stringer stepping up mostly in the second half. He gets finishes with 4 goals in the day. Darcy Parrish, let me know if you guys have heard this one before, but he finishes with another 30-plus disposals in this game. And this, kind of like I said in the intro, this game really went to show that you cannot take any team lightly, even if it's the bottom team in the league. And like I said, the question is, will Essendon be able to hold on to their spot? Another question, will the Roos actually be able to avoid finishing at the bottom? Right now, it looks tough to determine that, just because they have some close games that they could win. Maybe games like Adelaide or games like Carlton, but it's going to be tough against it when you got guys like Geelong, Richmond, Sydney. Those, I mean, obviously they might play those teams a little bit better than you would expect, but ultimately they shouldn't be getting those games. And for Essendon, the last games that they have in the season is the Giants, the Swans, the Doggies, Gold Coast, and Collingwood. Now, your only two, I guess, I'm not going to say obvious, but more obvious wins would be against Gold Coast and Collingwood. And if you can pull off against GWS, which we'll see when we get to our tipping, that those 3 of 5 could actually get you into the finals, but it's going to be really, really close.
This is a couple of battler. There's a couple of battler teams, a couple of teams that I think a lot of people were seeing towards the bottom of the ladder this year, with Essendon losing Sod and losing Danaher, but they drafted so incredibly well, and they've most of the draft picks have all hit. They've played really, really well. Essendon came out flat in this game, and North Melbourne was all over them at first, and it was to the point where you're kind of, is Essendon, is North Melbourne going to take another scalp when it comes to a team close to the finals and kind of ruin their chances of making the finals? Essendon, I mean, when Jake Stringer, for some weird reason, when this guy gets into a contract year and he needs to get more money on his contract, he becomes an absolute maniac superstar. And he does it again, kicking 4 goals in this game. And that really kind of lit a fire under Essendon. And again, this young team that they just get after you. They come and they come and they come. And North Melbourne, again, they played a tough physical. They stayed in this game. That, by all intents and purposes, they shouldn't be this close. They shouldn't be within 18 of the Essendon Bombers, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. So again, another tough matchup. Another good game by Coach Noble's boys. And if I'm any team, even Geelong, I don't want to face North Melbourne right now, because they're just tough. They aren't going to they aren't going to roll over. No. They're going to give you headaches. And it will not surprise me if they nip a few teams in these last few weeks going into the finals.
Also, I kind of hope so, just because the story of them maybe ruining some finals hopes for some teams would be kind of funny, to be honest. Imagine if you have a team like the Roos, they're the ones that are ultimately able to put the nail in the coffin for the Richmond Tigers. That would be something else, and that would play out very, very well on Twitter. I am 100% sure about that one.
Comment sections are going to be so much fun in this video.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. The next one, I mean, going from you want to speak a team like Richmond, let's talk about fans of a team like Collingwood, because they take on Carlton, and The Magpies, they controlled the game through the first three. Collingwood controlled the game through the first three terms. And Carlton, they were kind of able to steal this game late, almost like a reverse of what Collingwood did against Richmond. The way they were able just to steal that game late. But Harry Mackay, he's been great all year long. I mean, this Blues team they might have 3 top 20 players. They're a fantastic team on paper. It's just been playing it out a little bit differently on the field. But Harry Mackay's been good all year long. He kicks another 4. He stays as the top goal scorer in the league. He now has 52. And I have to ask you, what do you think helped spark this late Carlton rally? And how far will this game go in helping David keep his job? Because I was kind of mentioning in our tips last round is that this game was going to be really important to David Teague's future with the club. And this was a big step in the right direction for him and the organization.
To be completely honest with you, I would say there were 3 players that really were the reason Carlton won this game. Sam Walsh, and his absolute incredible game in this game. He absolutely put Carlton on his back and said, "Boys, I'm taking you to the promised land." And he pretty damn well did it.
David Teague hopped on the top of the pile too.
Harry Mackay kicking goals is great. And then in the emotional story of Jack Silvani after he lost his grandfather, Serge Silvani, the Carlton great. The Silvani name at Carlton is legendary. His grandfather was great. His father was the fullback of the all-century team for Carlton. So unfortunately, Jack had to play just after his grandfather's death, and for him to go out there and to continue to play and play really, really well, including taking an absolutely spectacular screamer in this game, and to kick a goal and to see his emotion and how emotional he was after they won was absolutely inspiring. To see the old rivals go at each other and for Carlton to get a big win to honor Serge Silvani in this. But Sam Walsh, my God, this kid is becoming a superstar in front of our eyes. I'm starting to agree with some of these pundits. We could see another $1 million player in this young man because, oh my gosh, what a performance. And the goal that he kicked in this game, absolutely outstanding. And the other funny part about this, and we'll bring it up, and I don't want to talk about this a lot, but I had to laugh at this, is we instant messaged each other because I told you got to see. It became the talk of every podcast that I listened to this morning, and that is the heat map of Sam Walsh. If you haven't had a chance, please check it out. Not going to describe it. You'll pretty much know it when you see it. If you haven't seen it and you're also on Twitter, check out Mitch Robinson's tweet about it. It's pretty obvious. You'll notice. And some of the responses were absolutely, 100% gold. So, but yeah.
Or if you really need to find it, what you can do if you have problems trying to find Mitch Robinson, you just follow our page, which I retweeted on, and you can just follow us at Fourth Long Radio on Twitter.
Oh, that is gold there. But no,
I'm so glad you showed me that.
Every podcast that I listened to this morning that was wrapping it up, every single one of them mentioned it. So it was absolutely hilarious. But no, just an incredible performance by Carlton. And again, and they're poking their heads in the chance to potentially make the finals. They're within striking distance. They're probably going to need a little help. They're going to have to win all 5 of their games and get at least a couple of teams to lose at least one to get into the finals. But as they say, there's a chance. You say we've got a chance. That quote is no more correct than it is right now for the Carlton Blues.
There is a chance. Are they going to actually do it? Do we think they will? Just wait until the end when we give you our top 8 predictions of the last 5 rounds ago. And Sam Walsh, he's turned into one of those players where you have to tune in at the least just to see him play. Because although he might not be on a team that's being super competitive and playing super well week in and week out, he is. And so he's one of those superstars or going to be superstars that is must-see TV. And then it's going to Adelaide and West Coast now. What we talked about in our tipping is this was a game where we just had to choose who of the teams that we are least confident in, who are we the most confident in. It was It's kind of a tough question. I guess I had to pick it right because the West Coast Eagles sort of find themselves in this game as they put a hurting on the Crows, even without Josh Kennedy. And you had, Flying Liam Ryan got back to what he does best. He gets marks and he gets goals. He put up 3 and 4. He went 3 goals, 4 behinds in this one. And it was Jamie Cripps coming alive to kick 5 and 2, and I don't think a lot of people, especially myself included, really saw this coming. Especially since he's only been averaging about a goal a game this season. So for him to jump out into this and put on this kind of showing was kind of. If you're a West Coast Eagles fan, just call it cool, man. Hey, hell yeah! If someone's going to spark us, especially being down a big guy, a big star, and shoot, I'm okay with anyone at this point just trying to salvage ours and really save our season and just make it into the top 8, even if we might end up limping into it. And this was, on the Crows side, this was another case of the Crows not putting up much offense without big Tex, because they, once again, I keep saying this, they don't have someone that could take over a game. They might have, if they're lucky, a handful of guys that can kick 2 goals a game. In this case, you have Fagardi and Keys. They both kick 2. But obviously it wasn't near enough to put them in contention to win this game. And so, is this West Coast showing that they can stay in the finals, or is this just them being a bad or depleted Adelaide Crows team?
Oh, this was the one game I went into it that I felt was a lose-lose, because if I tip Adelaide and the Crows don't win, it's a loss either way. I don't know this. I agree.
Honestly, that's a fine answer right there.
Exactly. Like this has been an unimpressive Adelaide Crows team the last 8 rounds. Unfortunately, they
looked so good at the beginning of the season too, man. So good.
Yeah, but unfortunately, 3 games does not a season make. Unfortunately,
no, it doesn't.
And I don't. I'm speechless. Like, I don't have the specific way of really saying the way this game was, because this was a little bit more of the Eagles I think a lot of people expected. A very good goal scoring team. Yes, they didn't have Josh Kennedy, but Jamie Cripps steps up. Nick Nat-Nui was back to his usual dominant self in the ruck, where not only is he good at ruck, but he can clear his own foot, he can get it in. The midfielders were back to their normal. When you have Gaff and you have some of those guys dominating the midfield, that always is a great combination. But again, this is an unimpressive Adelaide team that I don't know what to think of them. I don't know if they need another draft or 2 to kind of get more talent in, or if this is just I don't know. I can't really think of how to describe this one. This is just an odd game for me, because I lost all faith in West Coast after losing to North Melbourne. And it wasn't because North Melbourne, but it was because of you're at home. Yes, it's wet weather, but you still lose to a team that's at the bottom of the ladder. Again, North Melbourne's earning respect each and every game, but it's still a loss to North Melbourne. So getting this win, it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, well, you beat Adelaide. Congratulations. So it's like, I want to see this week, before I start really saying, are the Eagles back in the hunt? And this week, we get that kind of with West Coast playing St. Kilda at Optus Stadium. So we'll really have to see how that goes. So, good win for the Eagles. Impressive going on the road. Never easy, considering as absolutely pathetic as they were on the road. That's a win. That's a good win, because it's not at home. So,
yeah. Now, with the last game of the round, I wish that the only changes were made was this getting bumped to the last game of the fixture. But nope, we had a lot worse. We had players, we had stars, captains of teams pull just minutes before the first bounce due to COVID protocols. And while I understand it, there's rules in place for player safety reasons, and you got to keep everything going. Well, I'm not mad at the restrictions. I'm more just annoyed that it just happened that close, and it might have been the deal breaker in this game for the GWS Giants, but kind of the same logic here is that They got out to about a 40-point lead early, and they blew it. And I don't think you can blame the absence of Toby Green on that one. You can blame him if you lose this game by like a hard-fought game. You lose it by a couple goals. Hell yeah, you can push that narrative. Please do. I would be the conductor on that train. But you blew a 40-point lead. You blew it. You blew it. Just like you blow every single thing in the world, and all you do is make me wake up in the morning, watch a game of footy, and I cry. Okay, so that's what we got going on. Watching GWS this season has aged me probably about 2 decades. Okay, my mental age is finally catch up with my joint age, and this was just such a tough game. Seeing my heart dropped. I felt like I got shot in the heart when I saw Sydney kick 7 straight, and at that point, it was over. It's done. It's cooked. Stick a fork in it. They were done. Especially when you got Buddy Franklin and Tom Papley kicking 4 each. I mean, when they're hot, it's really hard to stop this Sydney team. And so now, Sydney's chase for the top 4 is right there. They're 4 points out. They're right there in making the top 4. So, yeah, GWS still has finals hopes, guys. Mathematically, they're just 2 points out, but it kind of depends on how long Toby Green's going to be out for, and it's going to depend on if they decide they want to win a damn game of football or not. Donnie, please, just take it away while I recover for a couple minutes here.
Oh man, that was no. So let's go
Can
back.
you tell I've been saving that for a few days?
Yeah, just a little.
Days.
So let's go back, and I have to say this, and this was a complete argument, is the game actually started, at least for me, at about 3 a.m. And when I turned it on, man, did I find out so much was going on, because basically over the last 24 hours, we find out that both Sydney and GWS had players at a rugby union game between France and Australia, which is the reason why they were ended out being deemed in a tier 1 COVID exposure, because a COVID positive case was in the section that both the Sydney Swans staff members and players, along with GWS staff members and players, was in. This is the reason why Toby Green and several other players who did not play in the GWS game, along with Callum Mills and Harry Cunningham from the Sydney Swans, were all deemed tier 1 and have to isolate for 14 days, even though they tested negative prior to the game. Half an hour before the game started, both teams had to bring in players, including the Swans having to bring in 2 guys that had played the day before in a scratch game for almost the entire time. Both James Rowbottom and Dylan Stevens had to play.
Hey, hats off to them for being able to do that.
Well, you could definitely, and the crazy part is you could definitely tell that they did, because Rowbottom did not touch the footy in the first half, and Dylan Stevens took a while to kind of get into the game. So both players took a little bit of time to get into it, but I think once the momentum started to kind of go Sydney's way, that helped them out a little bit, because GWS was on the back foot. This really was a game, like you kind of said, it was a game of 2 halves. The first half was GWS, and GWS hefty. I mean, I'll raise my hand. With about 8 minutes left in the second quarter, it was 35 points. I thought, oh, this is going to be a long night if this continues the way it was. But really, I think the turning point was the end of the first half, when Sydney kicks 3 goals in the last 3 minutes.
That was
2.5 minutes.
I mean, you make a manageable lead at that point, and you take all the momentum.
It made it 16 points going into the half, and you could tell the start of the second half, Sydney kicks the first goals, and you could tell GWS was reeling. It was now down to 10. Sydney kicks the next one. It's down to single digits, and it just rolled. Altogether, Sydney would kick 9 in a row before GWS would finally break that streak. But, I mean, I'm gonna say this. I agree with you that if this game is within a couple of goals, you can legitimately make the argument Toby Green changed it. But me as a Swans fan, and this is not me contradicting you, but we also lost a very good player in Callum Mills in the midfield, who I think might have made just as much of an impact. So I agree with what one of the players on AFL 360 said it was kind of nice that Toby Green and Callum Mills were both out, because really you can make the argument they would neutralize each other in the
Yes.
long
Yeah.
because you lose. So really you can't make that argument really that both teams. You can almost make an argument Sydney was hurt more because they lost their best small forward guard in Harry Cunningham. So you could almost make the argument that Sydney was hurt more by these COVID cases than GWS was.
Like imagine anyway.
But but in the long run, it was a very good game of footy. The skills were really, really well. But
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Tommy, I mean, I gotta give it Tommy Papley's one soccer goal that he scores, and I laughed because I even tweeted. I said, "There's no way in heck he thought he was going to score that," because you can tell as he's running off, he has this look like, "Oh my god, I did it!" Like it is literally the funniest thing ever.
Honestly, I love watching Tom Papley. It's just like as a player and the almost excitement, the emotion he shows. The pictures that on social media that they always get are fantastic, man. Always has a great face after a goal.
He is the best seller. He's probably one of the best celebrators of goals in the entire AFL, and it's so hard to argue that. But I mean, to see, and I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen the footage of John Longmire after the game, the coach of the Sydney Swans? He gets emotional after the game.
I love that video.
Of the fact,
I loved it.
And it was really, really cool. But then I also saw some video pregame when they found out that Rowbottom, Dylan Stevens would have to hop in. That the entire playing group was super excited for them to play. Yeah, they were sad that Mills and Harry Cunningham weren't be able to play, but they were like celebrating. They were jumping up and down. They were hugging those guys as they were trying to get ready because they were trying to get ready quickly. So I agree with what some of the announcers have said. This is a Sydney team that really is bonding over this time away from home. And I agree. This could be the start of something. I'm not holding my breath on the flag. Okay. I'm not. I'm not a one-eyed Sydney supporter. I don't go, yeah, we're going to win the flag. No. This is something I love seeing as a supporter of the club. And again, my heart goes out to GWS because I thought this was going to be a tough game. Even losing Toby Green and Callum Mills, I thought this was going to be a really good game. This disappointed me, this performance by GWS, because there's so much talent there. Getting Canelio back, yes, you lose DeBoer too, which I don't think really helps you, but there's so much talent in this GWS team. It almost gets frustrating because I think they're so much better than what they're playing, and that's kind of the hard thing for me sometimes to deal with. But I mean,
it should be at least. Yeah, like I said, I probably shouldn't be as a GWS fan, but I'm kind of rooting for the Sydney team. I love them, just like the feeling of a team that they are, and that's why, I mean, I already made the case last round, that they are legitimate flag contenders. This only proves it even more, and it's about time people on the medias for footy are finally catching on to this, because this is one thing I am always going to brag about, Donnie. I've been holding my hat on a good Sydney Swans team since our preview show of the season. And so, I got this going for me, and that's all I'm looking forward to. And it's been really fun watching Buddy Franklin my first full season, so I've been able to watch Buddy Franklin. I think we're past a year that I've been watching AFL, Donnie. I think we've passed that date, so... What can I say, guys? I'm a certified genius already, prodigy in this sport. What can I say? What is it, Fox 7 on coming for you guys? So I'll make my travel arrangements now. I'll pack my suitcase. I'll start living in Australia so I can work for you guys.
Let's not jump the shark just yet, there, buddy. Let's get through the regular season first before we start jumping on that particular train. No,
but I mean, at the end of the story, a really, really good another installment of the Sydney Derby. This is always a good game.
Yes, and it has been great over the last 5 or 6 years. It started to get really, really competitive. Those first 5 or 6 years, it was Sydney winning every game by 30 or 40. And I love competitive rivalries.
Yes.
I think they make both teams much, much better. And to see so many of the media starting to go, wow, I think the Swans, if I remember correctly, the Swans betting market went from the 9th or 10th best odds to win the flag to 5th.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
put the
insane.
money on.
Yep. They went to, I think it's like 15 in the Australia markets, at least they're now down to $15 to win the flag, which is fifth, which is either fifth or sixth best, tied with Port. So it's kind of it's interesting to see people kind of get on the Swans bandwagon, and we'll really have to see. Like I said, they've played so well this week, and I feel kind of bad because our some of our buddies like Dockerman and them, Sydney plays Frio this week, so this is going to be another fun week for me because I've got friends on the other side of this game. But
It might be
as I
worse
tell
than
all
the Geelong game.
well, as I tell all of them, I said I respect your team. I'm not a trash talker. Let's have a chat during the game because I think it's fun. Like for me, that's the exciting thing about it, and I can't wait for that. And if I see correctly, the game is actually at a decent time for me here at 9:30. So who knows? That'll be quite an interesting one there. But I think that's wow, what a round.
What a round indeed. And so I'm sure we have one hell of a team of the round that you have for us here, Donnie. Plenty of games and plenty of teams to choose from in this one.
Oh man, this was wow, this was an incredible one. Some absolutely outstanding performances. And the funny thing I found it is with the forwards, there's one thing that you'll notice. There isn't a person that makes the forwards that didn't kick at least 4 goals. That's the standard that you had to hit to make my team of the week this week because there were so many big goal kicking players. So let's hop on to the defenders. He's there so much just because he's so consistent. Western Bulldogs, Caleb Daniels, 23 disposals, a goal, 2 intercept possessions, 2 goal assists, 7 score involvements, 3 clearances, and 3 tackles for the diminutive little back from the Western Bulldogs. Brisbane's Daniel Rich, another one that seems to always find himself in my team of the week. 23 disposals, 5 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 4 score involvements, 3 marks, 3 clearances, 4 tackles, and 546 meters gained. I know he had a clanger or two, but he still had a really good performance. Mr. Bradley Hill, 29 disposals, a goal, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 6 marks, 2 tackles, and 590 meters gained. The Essendon captain, Dyson Heppel, 27 disposals, a goal, 5 intercept possessions, 3 marks, and 536 meters gained. Adelaide's Brody Smith, they may not have a great game, but he had a great game. 27 disposals behind, 7 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 8 marks, 3 tackles, and 825 meters gained. A little bit of love for your beloved Giants with Harry Perryman, the defender, 23 disposals, a goal, 8 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 3 marks, 3 tackles, and 296 meters gained. We go to the ruck, and surprise, surprise, guess who's there? Brody Grundy. 16 disposals, a behind, a goal assist, 3 score involvements, 3 marks, 3 clearances, 2 tackles, 27 hitouts, and 293 meters gained. We jump to the midfield, and my oh my, did we have some performances here. Geelong's Patrick Dangerfield, 22 disposals, 3 goals behind, 2 goal assists, 8 score involvements, 5 marks, 6 clearances, 4 tackles, and 281 meters gained. His heat map showed exactly how excited he made the Carlton fans. Mr. Sam Walsh, 39 disposals, a goal, a behind, 4 intercept possessions, goal assist, 6 score involvements, 9 marks, 5 clearances, 5 tackles, and 347 meters gained. Adelaide's Ben Keys, 30 disposals, 2 goals, 4 intercept possessions, 5 score involvements, 6 marks, 2 clearances, 6 tackles, and 337 meters gained. Port Adelaide's winger Carl Amon, 26 disposals, 2 goals, 1 behind, 4 score involvements, 7 marks, 10 tackles, and 327 meters gained. You help Hawthorn get a draw, you got to be in my team of the week. Hawthorn's Tommy Mitchell, 39 disposals, a goal, a behind, 10 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 6 marks, 6 clearances, 6 tackles, and 610 meters gained. We jump to the forwards, and here are the goal fest guys. Geelong's Tommy Hawkins, 14 disposals, 4 goals, a behind, goal assist, 6 score involvements, and 5 marks. The 300-game man himself, I had to give him a little bit of love, especially when you kick 6 goals for Jack Riewoldt, 14 disposals, 6 goals, 2 behinds, 9 score involvements, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 275 meters gained. Port Adelaide's Mitch Georgiadis, 10 disposals, 4 goals, 5 score involvements, 5 marks, and 5 tackles. The package himself, Essendon's Jake Stringer, 17 disposals, 4 goals, a behind, 10 score involvements, 4 marks, 5 clearances, 3 tackles, and 355 meters gained. A guy that really stepped up for West Coast, Jamie Cripps, 25 disposals, 5 goals, 2 behinds, a goal assist, 13 score involvements, 4 marks, 2 clearances, 4 tackles, and 324 meters gained. And we just got finished talking about this man, Sydney's excitement man, Mr. Tommy Papley. 13 disposals, 4 goals, 2 goal assists, 7 score involvements, and 3 marks for the diminutive forward. We jump to the bench, and I'll give a little love to Frio's Sean Darcy. 18 disposals, 3 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 2 marks, 8 clearances, 4 tackles, 37 hitouts, and 241 meters gained. The defender on the bench would be North's Aaron Hall. 31 disposals, 2 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 14 marks, and 734 meters gained. The midfielders, surprisingly, is Mr. Disposal Machine, Mr. Jack McRae. 31 disposals, 2 goals, 2 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 8 clearances, and 518 meters gained. And this man is only 19 goals away from 1,000 goals, and that would be Mr. Buddy Franklin. 11 disposals, 4 goals, 2 behinds, 8 score involvements, 6 marks, and 230 meters gained for the Big Bud. And that is my team of the week.
He's getting close to that number. He passed 400 in the red and white for the Sydney Swans this round. And also, just by the way, man, one thing I forgot to mention during that derby is I think that was the best combo of Guernseys the entire season, because those blacks and those were they the vintage heritage, that's the word. Thank you. The heritage jumpers for the Swans. Both of those are just they're so nice. They're so nice.
Yeah, honoring the South Melbourne section of the fan base, especially considering that for a while they were playing in Melbourne, so they wanted to commemorate being in Melbourne so long, so they decided they were going to wear some of the South Melbourne jersey Guernsey a few more times. So, and I love it. And the biggest question that I think a lot of people have is, can Buddy kick 19 goals in the next 5 games of the regular season and the finals? Can he get to 1,000 this season,
including finals? There's a very, very real possibility with that one, especially if they make
right now all he needs is 4 a game, so he's not too far off. If he kicks 1 of 5 and a couple of fives, he's got a shot of doing it in the regular in the home and away, but we'll have to see. It won't be easy.
No, I got my fingers crossed for that one. But we're going to get you our ladder predictions that we've been teasing the whole show. Now we're going to finish up with our ladder predictions, power rankings, and tipping for round 19. But this was a fun one. Of course, you can go to the ladder on afl.com.au. And I don't know why I'm shouting out their website specifically. I don't know, AFL sponsor us somehow. That'd be cool, man. Just throw us like $10 a month to start. Just saying.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
We can be your American voice like you want. But we went through the predictors, and which is actually a really fun feature. Donnie showed me this number of runs going. I've been playing with this a lot. But you can go. And so we did rounds 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 and came out with our top 8. So, Donnie, how about we go from 8 to... Let's give me your 8 to 1, okay, on this one.
Or do we want to throw? Why don't we throw in 12? Why don't we throw in 12 or 9 to see who falls just a little bit short?
Let's see. So if I want to throw you my 12 to 9 real quick, I have the Giants, the Dockers, the West Coast Eagles, and the Richmond Tigers finishing just out of the finals at 9. Those 9, 10, 11 are all going to finish with 40 points. GWS right there at 38.
Interesting. So
yeah.
I at 12. I also have GWS. They hit 34 points. The St. Kilda Saints finished 11th in my prediction ladder at 36 points. 10th will be the Carlton Blues with 44 points. Just below percentage-wise, also at 44 points, will be the Richmond Tigers, just falling short of the finals.
Oh,
So that is that. Let's go 8 through 5 now. At 8th place, just making the finals. I have a friend that's going to really love if this comes true, and that is the Essendon Bombers, also with 44 points, just edging Richmond by percentage in this one. In 7th, surviving and staying in the finals will be the West Coast Eagles with 48 points. In 6th place will be the Port Adelaide Power with 64 points. And rounding out the bottom 4 of the finals will be my Sydney Swans, 64 points on the board. That is my 5th place team. Let's hear it, Ross. 8 through
So
5.
the prediction I made, my hot take from last round, at least you might be able to call it a hot take. If you're one of the supporters of these teams, you're just going to call it facts. But my 8 and 7 team, respectively, is going to be St. Kilda and Essendon. They're both going to make it in. St. Kilda with 44 points, Essendon with 48. And now the game, probably the most pivotal game that I have, comes in the last round of the season, round 23. And it's going to be between the St. Kilda Saints and the Fremantle Dockers. Whoever wins this game is going to end up 8. Whoever loses will end up at 11. So this is a really fun one. This is a really kind of important game for either one, obviously. So that's one of the games I'm going to be excited for if everything else holds. At 6, I have Port Adelaide. And at 5, I have the Sydney Swans. And I'm just going to jump into the 4 real quick with the Brisbane Lions, because all 3 of those teams are tied at 64 points, but they're just barely broken up by percentage. So I went in, and with these teams specifically, since they were tied, I went and adjusted the percentages on them too. Port Adelaide finishes about 118, Sydney 123, Brisbane 126. So from 4 to 6, it's only 8 percentage point difference right there. And then if we're going to keep rolling, top 3, Geelong at 3, Western Bulldogs at 2, Melbourne Demons at 1. It was 70 points, and then both the Doggies and Cats are going to be at 68. But I have the Geelong about 126 percentage points, and the Western Bulldogs at 133. It's going to be really close. Do I think Melbourne's going to finish as the best team in the league? No, I do not. I think it's going to be Geelong. But just given how the games are going to play out, where they're going to end up, that's how I think this is going to look. What about you, Donnie?
All right, number 4. I also with you. I have the Brisbane Lions with 64 points, and to go back what you were saying, for me, there is only a 0.1 percentage difference between Sydney and Port.
Oh man,
118.5 for Sydney, 118.4 for Port. So I had
nuts.
to say, since you talked about that.
How many points did you have for Port again?
Most of the time I had it at 15 or 20 points for most of because it was really hard to split hairs, especially late in the season. I could probably go back and adjust.
Sorry. Total points. Like, how many did they finish with?
Let's see. Port ended up with 60. Port Adelaide, Brisbane, and Sydney all end up with 64 points.
So what's funny about that is our Port Adelaide picks are exactly the same with 64 points and 118.4 percentage points.
Yep.
What are the odds of that?
It happens because I didn't change it. Like I said, I probably go back and change the scores a little bit. A couple of them, maybe a little closer.
I play with the ones I need to be played with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me, I actually have the Western Bulldogs at number 3rd in this particular. Number 2, the Melbourne Demons.
Oh.
I have, and number 1 finishing minor premiers, the good old Geelong Cats with 72 points. So this was kind of a fun.
I know a yank on the foot is going to be happy you said that.
I know he will, because the funny thing about that is the reason Geelong ends up winning the minor premiership is the game of the entire season is round 23, Geelong versus Melbourne at GMHBA Stadium, and the Cats get the win.
That's good stuff, man. Yeah, that game, it's one of those games. It's kind of like the St. Kilda and Fremantle game for me, round 23. Whoever wins this game is going to be 1 or 3. So, man, circular calendars for that game.
And here's another thing, also in round 23 too. I played with it just a little bit here. if I change one result in round 23 in a game, one of the last games of the season is Brisbane versus the West Coast Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see this. Here's how much my ladder changes is if I change the win from Brisbane to West Coast, Sydney jumps up to 4th place. Brisbane drops to 6th.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if
Gotcha on
Brisbane
that one
doesn't
too.
beat the West, yep, and that one little switch there would put Sydney in the 4, facing Geelong in the first round of the finals with the double chance, and Brisbane falling all the way to 6th, who would then face West Coast Eagles again 2 weeks later
Mm-hmm.
in the first round of the elimination final. So again, a few of these games they just go one way or t'other, and they could really, really change these finals. I love this ladder predictor. It is so much fun because you
It's
can have.
addicting.
Well, and the funny part about it is just the fact you can go back in and you can change a couple games just that way, and it can really change the ladder an absolute ton. And the funny part is, if you look at it, if you go back into your ladder predictor right here, you can actually go through the finals and predict the finals because it has finals week round 1. You can pick who wins and what. So we won't do that because we'll save our finals prediction for our final show because that's always absolutely fun to see if any of us can get it right.
Obviously,
with
could be
it.
huge. And maybe a special guest that you've seen on before. Maybe. Just
That'll-
throwing out there. It's a possibility. Not guarantee anything.
All right, but that's like I said, that ladder predictor is so much fun, and I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to this, the first time I showed him this, he had to go right onto it, and I couldn't get him to talk for a couple minutes because he was going. It was so much fun. So I think I created a monster with this ladder predictor.
Oh, yeah, you did. And then the last little bit, kind of why I said last round too, is that if you go ahead and do this and you send us a screenshot, if you send our Twitter account or Instagram account or where you find us, if you send us a screenshot, you will be entered into the contest that I'm putting on, where if you get that Final 8 perfect, you're going to be getting one of these bad boys. If you're on YouTube, you can see the very nice tri-blend Footy's Underrated t-shirt that I am wearing right now. Very comfortable, fits the arms very snugly, makes my arms look even bigger, which makes me feel a lot better about myself. But go ahead. I would love to see what you guys got. Let's have some fun, and especially the last little bit of a rush at the end of the season. Go on in. I mean, entrance is free. If anything, you can only win stuff. So just let us know. I'll be posting about that. I would love to see what you guys got here. But let's end things with the power rankings and tipping for round 19. And it goes without saying, Donna and I had the same 5 teams again for our power rankings, just in different order. I got really close. We got really close to having different teams at least because I almost had Brisbane in 5. But, man, that loss was just not good. Not good, to say the least. So Port Adelaide hots back at number 5. They get back into the top 5. I actually have Melbourne in number 4. I got the Doggies in number 3. Then jumping, I was so happy to be able to bump them up this far, is the Sydney Swans at number 2, right behind the betting favorite for the finals, for the flag. We have the Geelong Cats. So from 5 to 1, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, the Doggies, Sydney, and Geelong. And if St. Kilda won this game, I really wish they beat Port Adelaide so we could put them on the top 5 as well.
Oh man, so there really wasn't much a difference between me. Like you, I had Port at 5, Melbourne at 4. Here's the difference. I have Sydney at 3. I can't put Sydney above
It's
the Doggies.
the venue,
Yes, I know
right?
Sydney beat the Doggies. And it's
Well,
the old-
Sydney did
the
beat
old
the
favorite,
Doggies,
especially
is
I
what I'm
love
going
in
with, man.
NCAA college sports ranking sometimes
Yeah.
is you beat, but we can't be ranked ahead of them because of so on and so forth. I just want to see Sydney just a few more games before I make that jump because again, the Western Bulldogs played a really good game in that one. I think Sydney had a good plan. We'll definitely have to see
That's
how
very
that
fair.
goes. And then Bulldogs 2, Geelong at 1, just an incredible 5. I think the Cats right now are really, really, really cementing their place as a flag contender in that group with the Melbourne Demons, the Western Bulldogs, and Sydney is making a point that if Brisbane falls out, Sydney's right there to take their place. So there's 4 of these 5 teams right now I could potentially at least see going very, very deep in September.
Super excited about that. Let us know what your top 5 looks like as well. Of course, we drop power rankings every Tuesday before we drop our shows the Wednesday, the hours after. So if you want to get a little bit of a sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about, go ahead and follow us on, of course, our Instagram and Twitter. Now, let's cap things off with some tipping. And although I had the better round, I mean, Donnie, you said, don't they technically count draws as wins in like most tipping stuff, most tipping sites, at least the ones you use? So,
I think I had a little bit of technical difficulty. I got muted there. I'm sorry about that. What did I miss?
So
I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I know he's talking, but I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
This is lovely stuff, man. I wish we weren't a number of states away and time zones away. I would love to record this in person, but is what it is. But right, a lot of sites say tipping sites they count draws as wins. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if you do that, then I had a really positive week. I think it's like 6-3 or 6 what would it be, or maybe 7-2. I had a good week, luckily. Let's see if we can carry that momentum into this round. The first game is going to be Port Adelaide and Collingwood, and I got Port Adelaide in this one because they're playing at the Oval. They play great there, and I just this another one. It's a non-top 8 team, so Port Adelaide's going to win this game.
Yeah, this is another one of those where it's like Collingwood's kind of coming off a disastrous showing against Carlton. Port Adelaide's at home. Again, this is all subject to, we're not sure. Unfortunately, South Australia's now got another 3 or 4 cases, so it's kind of wait and see COVID chaos. But if this game goes the way I think it's going to go, I believe Port Adelaide should win this. I think they just have a little too much. And there's potential for Butters and Xavier Dersma to both be back for Port Adelaide, which
that'd be huge.
If I'm Collingwood, I'm going, oh no. So
that's not good.
So I have Port Adelaide winning that one there.
Mm-hmm. Now the next game is going to be the Carlton Blues taking on the North Melbourne Roos at Marvel Stadium, and I'm so sorry, David Teague. I hate to do this to you, but I got the Roos pulling the upset in this one.
Oh man, this is. You asked me this a couple weeks ago. I'd have been right with you. I'd have said North because the way Carlton was playing. The performance this week, again, there was emotion behind it with Jack Silvani's grandfather passing away, and I think it really pushed the boys. I think Cripps will be back this week. I think that's a bad combination. I think Carlton's starting to play a lot better. I'm gonna go with the Blues on this one. But this is another one that's going to be an absolutely outstanding game of footy the way North plays. They're really going to push Carlton a lot. I think this is going to be an exciting game for teams that are in the bottom part of the ladder, but I think this is still going to be an exciting game of footy.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be some good stuff there. The next game we can roll on into is the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns. And I think the Suns are going to play a really close game here right now, scheduled to be at the Gabba. And I feel like with any game at any time, at any day, on any venue, you have to say at this moment because I feel like everything changes so much. But the Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns taking place here. And like I was saying, I think this is another game, kind of the Suns game against the Western Bulldogs, where they played them really close. Ultimately, Brisbane is going to get the win here, but this is like upset alert. You really want to sound the alarm on this one because it has upset written all over with the form of either team in the last couple of rounds.
Oh boy, this one is I am completely with you on this one. I've tipped Brisbane, but this is the keep an eye on this one. The coach has to keep an eye on this one because it will not shock me if Gold Coast pulls this off. With ever since Hipwood has went down, the Brisbane has been looking shaky going forward. I think Joe Danaher is still not adjusting to this more pressure of being kind of the man up forward a little bit more. He was not as impressive this last week, so we'll have to see. I think Brisbane does have the better players and all. They should win this, but Gold Coast has just been giving people headaches, and you just never know what Gold Coast is going to be like, especially in this highly contentious Q clash that they have.
Mm-hmm. And the game after that, we got a bit of an interesting one, especially after the last round that we have the West Coast Eagles and St. Kilda Saints game matched up at Optus. And if this was a round 18 game, I would say the Saints hands down. But given what we saw from the Eagles last round and the Saints last round, it's a little bit more of a toss-up, especially being where it is. I'm gonna take the Saints in this one, but West Coast can get the win if they keep building off the momentum that they picked up in round 18.
I think the win at Adelaide Oval I think has kind of woken up this Eagles team, and this is a team that if I'm the rest of the competition, I don't want them to wake up. I don't want the sleeping giant that is the West Coast Eagles with all that talent and all that ability to wake up. Again, they are not the most impressively imposing team when it comes to pressure, but if they can play their game, they're incredibly difficult to stop with the talls up forward that are athletic and they can kick goals. I think West Coast has just enough, especially being an Optus Stadium. They play that stadium very, very well. St. Kilda with a sketchy performance against Port, and I think their confidence is wavered. And if Nick Nat gets after the two ruckmen, I think he can get over them enough that I think he can turn the tide for this one. So I will tip the Eagles in this one. Even though they've burned me so many times, I'm going to take that last shot. Third time a charm, I'm hoping.
Right. I don't trust him, man. I've been wrong too many times. Of course, the one thing you pick against them is the time they actually win. But speaking about the Adelaide Oval, let's head on over there for the Adelaide Crows and the Hawthorn Hawks. And I don't like Adelaide, even with Tex. I hate them without him. I'm going to go the Hawthorn Hawks in this one, especially after the draw they were able to manage against the top team on the ladder.
Ooh, being on the road makes me a little leery about this because sometimes when you get a Melbourne team going out of Victoria, sometimes not. But I just don't like the way the Crows are playing right now. I think Alistair Clarkson is just he's showing why maybe the secession plan may have been a little premature, but we will see. I will also tip the Hawks on this one, but I think this one is going to be tight. This one is going to be close, and this one is going to be a ball to watch.
Oh, speaking of a ball to watch, I think the game that everyone is going to be trying to tune in for is the rematch between the Melbourne Demons and the Western Bulldogs. Like we were showing in our kind of finals predictors, is that this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be absolutely pivotal. And this could very well determine one or two on the ladder going into the finals. And so I have... this is a really tough one for me to pick. I've been going back and forth on this one in my head. Even like right now, I'm still not sure. I'm going to pull the trigger on the Melbourne Demons. But there's so many reasons why I could pick them, so many reasons why I could pick against them. But ultimately, this is a coin flip to me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, this one really is. Like, I'm like you. I sat and I looked at this one and I stared at it because I'm like, well, the way Melbourne has played against Hawthorn, I should pick the Bulldogs. But then I'm like, well, but Melbourne really handled the Bulldogs earlier this season. And Melbourne's played really, really well against the better teams. They seem to play better against it. So I finally went, well, as kind of like my argument that I had with you, or the discussion, or kind of the discussion points that I had earlier, I'm going to tip the Dees, but I was not super confident with this one because I just don't know. Will the Dees respond the way they have been against the better teams, or will we see a waiver? Because my thoughts are this: Bulldogs win this one, then will we see the sketchy D's come back, which is the D's of previous years where they tend to find a way to lose games that they probably shouldn't. So I'm going to tip the Melbourne Demons in this one, but I'm not major confident. I think this is a super coin toss because if the Bulldogs can get going, especially if Jamara Ugle-Hagan can get out and make an impact in this game, this is a toss-up. This is going to be absolutely exciting. I hate that it's at 4:25 in the morning because, man, this would be great if this was like this was the Friday night footy game. This would be spectacular.
Yeah, I wish this was 4:25 my time because I would actually be waking up like about 30 minutes after it starts, so I'd be able to watch most games. Guys, that's the nice thing about some of these like late morning games, which we're not getting too many of, unfortunately, this round. But I've been able to wake up and catch 3/4 of it live, so. I don't like being up that early, but you gotta do what you gotta do for work and workouts. But one game that's going to be perfect time for us actually is the Sydney Swans and the Fremantle Dockers because this takes place at 8:30 my time, so I'll be able to watch this game. But this is one where this, kind of like I said earlier in the show, this could be a worse final score than what we saw from Geelong and the Fremantle Dockers. I have to tip the Sydney Swans. I just hope that Fremantle is able to put up a better fight than I think they will.
I'm hoping, like I said, I don't know if Sean Darcy's going to play or not. If Sean Darcy doesn't play, this one could get ugly quickly because I think Sean Darcy really neutralized Tom Hickey in their first matchup at Optus Stadium, and I think that kept the game close. Buddy kicked a bag in that game. Let's see, does Griffin Lowe get that opportunity again? How does the midfield battle go? No Callum Mills, so we'll have to see how that midfield matchup will be with no Callum Mills in the midfield. Harry Cunningham will also be out, so will there be any defensive change? Will there be any defensive changes for the Swans? So I think the Swans will win this one, but I think, again, just like the first one, I think it's a good competitive game. Freo just gets after you, knowing this is a chance to knock off an inside the 8 team and get themselves back in the hunt to be a finals team. I think it's going to be massive for the Dockers. I just think Sydney has a little too much in this one, but this is one, as a Swans fan, this is the little section where now these are games the Swans will be favored. These are the games as a Swans fan you get a little more concerned because you hope you don't get a lag after an incredible win over GWS, that you come out flat in this game against the Freo Dockers. They should win this one, but this one I think is closer than some people think.
Yeah. There could be worries there. And honestly, this game, either it's going to be really close or it's going to be a blowout. I really don't see it being much of an in-between here. The last couple of games on the round is why I threw at the pause, because dates and times are to be confirmed. For your Essendon and GWS, you have dates, times, a stadium, and players in roster is all to be confirmed. This is... Oh, it's just awful, isn't it? But the Essendon Bombers and the GWS Giants, to me, this all revolves around Toby Green. Toby Green's not going to be in the lineup. The Essendon Bombers are going to win this game. If he is, the GWS Giants might have a chance and will win this game. It's honestly that simple to me.
Sadly, I hate to burst your bubble, but
is he not in the game?
He would, due to the 14-day. That's why Callum.
That's
Mills
a hard 14 days. Is that right then?
Yep, and unfortunately, they got it backdated a little bit, but unfortunately, he is out until the Wednesday before round 20. So
well, thanks for fixing my prediction. Essendon Bombers, you guys got this game. I'll tip it the Dons on this one.
Yeah, that's the reason why in the previous game I had said Callum Mills and Harry Cunningham will not be playing. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yes, unfortunately, the 14-day lockout.
So I saw they're backlogging it, and then the end date might shift it a little bit. I was just being too optimistic.
Yeah, they backlogged it, but even backlogging it, they would miss this week and next week because I think they prorated it to Tuesdays. So 7 days will be this upcoming next Tuesday. So tomorrow will be 7 days. So there's no way. I mean, till Friday is not 7 days. Yep. So unfortunately, yeah. And I'm even I think when I originally did my tips, this was before I found out Toby Green was out. I had Essendon before. I'm even more convinced Essendon will win this game just because I think they're kind of like Sydney. They're flying. They have that quick ball movement, and that really, really GWS really struggled with it once they get going. Mm-hmm. Their defenders are good one-on-one, but if Essendon can lead, it'll really be difficult to stop. I think Essendon wins this one, but I don't know. In these games, sometimes when GWS is back against the wall and everybody's like, yeah, you're not going to win this. You're not going to win this. This is when GWS wins it. So this one, there's several games I think could come down to final kicks at the pace it's going, the way some of these matchups are this round.
And I think the last game of the round, at least that we have listed here on the AFL website, is what we base all of our stuff off of, because that's what we're told to do. So I'm going to be a good fan and good broadcaster of this stuff. I'm going to listen to what the hell's on the AFL website. So if something's wrong, blame them, not me. That's my way of shifting the blame off of my shoulders. But what we have here is the Geelong Cats and the Richmond Tigers, and it's at the MCG. So I don't know, man. Sometimes the Tigers are used to playing at that stadium with all the damn grand finals they've been to, but I like the Cats in this one. They are the best team in the league at this point, even though the ladder might not show it, and they should be able to handle business. Richmond might be able to put up a bit of a fight, but it's going to be tough as they played very hard last round, and no Dusty, that's going to take the wind out of you.
And I'm kind of with you, except for my other thing is that Dusty's out and Danger is back. And Danger did not play in that first game between these two teams. So
Oh, that's right.
I have the Cats winning this one. It was tried to be taken down to GMHBA Stadium. Unfortunately, the AFL, for some weird reason, even though there will not be fans, still said that the game must be at the MCG. I'm still trying to figure out why. I think it should have been down in Geelong. There wasn't going to be any fans. I don't see why it would have hurt them, but whatever. Come see, come saw. You never try to argue, unfortunately, with the AFL. For heaven forbid we do that. We love you, AFL, but there are sometimes your decisions are not exactly what I would consider really thoughtful, but that's just me personally. But no, I have the Cats winning this one. I think the loss of Dusty. I think Jack's performance really went off his 300th game, but this is such a good defensive team in Geelong. I think they are going to stifle the big two forwards. I think Tommy Hawkins is going to give Dylan Grimes so many headaches. And I even if not having Jeremy Cameron, I still believe the Cats are just a tiny bit too strong in a few of the areas that the Tigers are really hurting when it comes to injuries. So I will have the Geelong Cats taking down the mighty Richmond Tigers.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us, and we'd love to see what your tipping looks like. Hopefully it goes better than what mine usually ends up being. So, like usual, either tip against me or go with Donnie is that's my word of advice to all of you. But really do appreciate you all sticking until the end of the show. You guys are just the best. And especially even if you're U.S. listeners or if you're Aussie listeners, we love all of you and really do appreciate all your support over on our socials or on YouTube or on any our audio sites, anywhere you get your podcast from. Of course, for all your AFL content from Fourth and Long, you can just go to thefourthandlong.com/AFL. But Donnie, your thoughts on round 19 in one word or phrase?
Oh man, unpredictable, because as soon as I have a feeling that I know exactly the way it's going to go, something unpredictable, something I was not expecting to happen, usually happens. So let's just throw it out there. Unpredictable. And before we take off, I know there are several people that watch this that are huge Aussie fans that may have caught the end of last episode and they heard that my team, the Des Moines Roosters, happened to have our first couple of games.
Oh yeah,
for those of you that
round of applause.
For those of you that do not follow me and the club, over the weekend we successfully won a couple of tough games down in Kansas City, beating Kansas City and St. Louis, a couple of teams that are kind of rebounding after kind of taking a few years off. So very proud of the boys. If you do not know what we are at Des Moines DM Footy Roosters Footy on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Instagram as well. Keep an eye on it. We're mostly American USAFL team. We play footy. We love playing the sport. We're trying to build an audience not only here in the States but also in Australia too. Please keep an eye out. We're working on a merch deal right now. I know I have several people that really want some Roosters gear. So keep an eye out.
Those jumpers, they're nice.
and as soon as we get that all figured out, I will let everybody know on our social media accounts. And another thing I also wanted to say, my wife has really been getting on me about this. Very soon, keep an eye out. Coach Hess will soon be on Instagram.
Oh, it's about damn time, so I could start adding you on Twitter and Instagram, Donnie. So great to that. Also, just go on and do yourself a favor. Go over to Twitter, follow at USAFL 1997, so you can stay tuned to everything Australian football in the United States. But ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be unpredictable last number of rounds, and also make sure to get yourself entered into a contest to win yourself a free cotton tri-blend t-shirt. A footy is underrated. It'll hug the arms, make it look like your arms have 5 more inches to them, so it'll make it look nice and swole on that one. But ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoy the hell out of round 19, and we will catch you guys in the next one.